Today we'll be making the review of the Apologetics Study Bible in the King James Version. Hi, this is Christopher and you're watching our Bible review vlogs. Okay, but before anything else, before we proceed, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Okay, so that our channel would grow and others would see what we will have in the near future. And don't forget to click on that notification bell so that you will be notified of our future videos. Okay, so this Bible comes with a dust jacket, the simple dust jacket with the thinker with in front. So this is the Apologetic Study Bible in the King James Version. And here at the back you will see all the features. You could pause on this video so that you could read the features included in this Bible. This is the Apologetics Focused Study Notes, Apologetics Articles from Leading Scholars, Twisted Scripture Explanations for Commonly Misunderstood Passages, Profiles of Christian Apologists, full-colored apologetic charts and timelines. You have the presentation page, book introductions. Well, this is good. Words of Christ are in red. This is a 2-column format with the point type size of 9.75. This is Smith-sewn binding, ribbon markers, and full-colored maps. And here is the ISBN number, retailing at $39.99. Okay, so moving on. So this Bible is in black imitation leather or leather touch, and you could see the perimeter stitching. And with the spine hub, with the spine, you could see King James Version, Apologetic Study Bible, Holy Bible, and Holman. You could see that there are no that the spine hubs are not raised. Let me wait for the focus. The spine hubs are not raised. It's just engraved. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is a Smith-sewn binding with, let's wait for the focus, head and tail bands are gray. You can see that. And we have 2 ribbon markers. We have 2 ribbon markers, black and red, measured at 7.5 centimeters. As you can see, this is gold edged. You could see the signatures of the binding. It's very obvious, by the way. Now, the dimensions of the Bible is 9.2 in height, 6.7 in width, and the thickness is 1.5. Okay, so let's compare this with my other Bibles here. Okay, so as you can see, with the CSB verse by verse, the King James Apologetics is kind of shorter than the CSB, but thicker. Okay, And for the width, yep, CSB is still longer. Now with my NAB, let's try to compare the size also. As you can see, the NAB is also longer in terms of the height, the same width, and the thickness almost the same with the thickness. Now let's open the Bible. It is a paste down. It's not edge lined, but it is a paste down with a cardstock. And let us see the binding. I don't know if you could see it with the camera. There is the overcast stitching which reinforces the binding. Okay, so let's open this up. Okay, so as you can see, this is a 2-column format with the outer margin at 1.5 centimeters, the top margin also at 1.5 centimeters, the bottom, let me show it to you, the bottom is just half a centimeter, the inner margin is measured at 1.5 as well. Okay, so since this is a 2-column format, the in-between space is 0.5 centimeters as well. This Bible actually lays flat, all right, and as you can see, let me point this out to you. The page number is at the top and center, with the content of every page on the outer printed on the outer part of the paper. Okay, so one column, as you can see, one column, there are 45 lines. The footnotes let me show it to you. The footnotes, I think, is let me see that. I think the footnotes is 6 or 7 point font. Sorry for that. The text block is very readable, actually. For a 9.75, it's not a comfort print, but it's already very readable. The Bible paper is thin, kind of thin. It's kind of thin. It shows no sheen when I put it on the light. With minimal ghosting, you won't be able to notice that in the camera, but here, yeah, the ghosting is noticeable, but you won't be bothered with the ghosting anyways. So let me show you something. The Bible is in verse by verse format. which is kind of special for me though. You won't be able to notice much of the verses because um, it it the verse numbers are pretty small. But if you take a look at it and focus your eyes on the page, you would notice that it is in verse by verse format. And let me show you the start of the paragraph. There would be a symbol to mark the beginning of a paragraph, and there you could see that there in verse 24. Okay, so now let me show you the poetic setting here in the book of Psalms. As you can see, there's not so much in the book of Psalms. It is not, even though it's in a verse by verse format, it is not in a poetic setup. It's just like in every other page of the book. And the Psalms is divided in 5 parts. We have book 1. We have book 1, which contains Psalms 1 to 41. And here is book 2, Psalms 42 to 72. And book 3, Psalms 73 to 89. And here we have book 4, Psalms 90 to 106. And lastly, we have book 5, Psalms 107 to 150. Okay, so I'd like you to focus on the words which are in italics. These words are actually, the reason why these words are in italics is because these words are not found in the original manuscript, and it was just added by the translators for an easy reading of the Bible text. Alright, so moving on. Each book starts with their own introductions. Like here in Proverbs, you could see the author, the book of wisdom. I encourage you guys to read the introduction. You will find certain information regarding the book itself. Alright? And okay, so there are articles spread out all throughout the Bible, but one article caught my attention here, and I'd like to read it with you guys. So this is by Chad Owen Brand, Intellectuals Who Found God. So here we have C.S. Lewis, Aurelius Augustine, and we have Alexander Solzhenitsyn, hard to pronounce. And there is Francis Schaeffer, J.S. Bach, and Lewis Wallace. And one special feature that you will notice here in this Bible is that there are twisted scriptures like this one, and it is spread out all throughout the Bible. This is one good example, like in Genesis 12, this twisted scripture, this one refers to Genesis 12:10 to 20. Like, Mormons claim that while Abraham was in Egypt, he wrote the Book of Abraham, one of the Mormon sacred scriptures, which had been lost until it fell into the hands of Joseph Smith in 1835. After Smith allegedly translated the papyrus into English, it passed through several hands before landing at the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. Egyptologists identified as a portion of the Egyptian Book of the Dead dealing with funeral customs and worship of the various Egyptian gods. Okay, so moving on, here in the New Testament, the words of Christ are in red. You won't be able to notice that much here in this camera. It's a little bit dark, but I like how the red is printed here. Not so loud. Not so loud. It is just the right shade of red for me. It does not hurt my eyes anyways. And as you can see, anything that is referred by the New Testament and quoted from the Old Testament, like it is written, man shall not live by bread alone. Alright, so this reference from the Old Testament is not separated, unlike other Bibles, which is either printed in bold or in caps. All the references in the Old Testament are printed alongside the text of the Bible. Okay, so let's have a brief. Let me just show you the other parts of the Bible. So here we have the title page, we have the copyright page, and this one is printed in China, copyright in 2019. We have the preface, here we have the books of the Bible and the contributors. We have the additional features. These are the articles, like what is apologetics, how apologetics changed my life. We have what is the transcendental argument for God's existence. We also have the Twisted Scripture Notes written by Alan Street. We have notable Christian apologist biographies. We have Anselm of Canterbury, Aquinas, Thomas, Athanasius, Augustine of Hippo, Joseph Butler, Irenaeus of Lyons, Justin Martyr. Okay, we also have other materials, and we have charts and maps. Moving on, we also have the contributors in the Bible. We have Paul Copan, Lamar Cooper, Mark Dury, Barrett Duke, and we have the abbreviations in KJV. And here is one of the articles, what is apologetics. So there are a number of informations before we hit the Bible itself. Okay, so here is the Old Testament. And now moving on to the last part of the Bible. Okay, the last part of the Bible, we have the annotated bibliography for apologetics. We have the Concordance. The Concordance here is, I'm a little bit disappointed because the Concordance is very small. So this is formatted in 3 columns, and the fonts are pretty small, kind of hard to read. But as you can see, the Concordance is very comprehensive. It's very comprehensive. There are a lot of information, a lot of helpful tools for study. And after the concordance, we have blank pages. We have 2 blank pages before moving on to the next part. We have the timeline of apologetics, of apologists and notable works. So we have the early church, patristic era. We have the Middle Ages. We have the Reformation, Renaissance, Enlightenment, the 19th century. We have the main forces influencing apologetics. And these informations are all printed in cardstock paper. It's very thick, right? And we also have selected important Old Testament archaeological finds, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, House of David inscriptions, Sargon inscriptions. We also have manuscript authority of the New Testament compared to other classical works. What are these classical works? We have the New Testament, Homer's Iliad, Plato, and Aristotle. We also have naturalism versus theism, which context best explains the phenomena we observe. We have the theistic context and the naturalistic context. Like, for example, personal beings exist, God is a personal being. In theistic, in naturalistic, the universe was produced by impersonal processes. And we also have comparisons of world religions. We have Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. And we also have Hebrew kings and chronology. And these are the Holman maps. The Holman maps are actually pretty good. The details, it's very detailed, and the color is very attractive. Okay, so since this is a King James version, I'm interested to read some of the verses. Alright, so I have chosen Luke chapter 4, verses 17 to 22. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Esaias, which is Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book, and he gave it again to the minister, and sat down, and the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. And all bare him witness, and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is not this Joseph's son? And this is actually also very interesting. Luke chapter 1, verse 28. Also in the King James, and the angel came unto her, and said, Hail, thou that art highly favored, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. So here it is also printed that Mary is highly favored. It's quite interesting. And here this is Mark 16, Mark 16:9-20. So the reason that I wanted to see this is I would like to see if this longer version is integrated with the biblical text, and as you can see, there are no identifying marks that this is a longer version of the ending of Mark. So yes, this means that the text is included in the biblical text, and that is a good thing as well. And lastly, I would like to see Matthew 16:13-20. Now, I kind of like how they printed this account of the gospel. Okay, so when Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that the Son of Man am?" And they said, "Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock, which is Peter, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. Now, remember these verses, and we will go to Isaiah. Now, we're moving on to Isaiah chapter 22, verse 22. "And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder." The key. "So he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open." Now, the key here, if you could remember Matthew 16, symbolizes authority. And here, as God gave the key of the house of David to Eliakim, which means, "So he shall open and none shall shut, and he shall shut and none shall open." Well, it is exactly the same in Matthew 16. Whatever you bind shall be bound, whatever you loose shall be loosed. So authority was given to Peter to forgive and not to forgive. So that means in the written text, if you could analyze it further, Peter is considered the authority on the church built by Christ. So in conclusion, I like how this Bible has been constructed, and this is recommended for those who would like to have a deeper study of the scriptures in the King James Version. And since this is also published by Holman, I highly recommend it. And all right, so thank you for watching. God bless.